Stour Valley in East Kent. And a channel update for August into September. Now, the opening sequence was filmed at Elterwater in the Lake District, September 2023. It was a rather soggy visit, as I recall. You may have seen that on a short I released recently. It's August 2024 now, and a bit drier. Now, that church may feature in a future episode, but I've still got some editing to do on that. Right, this road's turned out to be a bit busy. I'm going to head back to the van and I'll pick up the story on foot a bit later on. How much stylish headgear can I fit into a channel update? Well, that's a little less frantic. It's interesting to note that on one side of the park there's a public launch area for canoes and such. It's extremely popular in August. Whilst on the other side of the road is a nature reserve, and it's pretty much deserted. However, mostly I camp here because there's a place on the car park that's almost permanently in shade, much needed in summer. The reserve is looking really splendid, a real symphony of colours, and even though the sun is harsh, there's a very pleasant stiff breeze which you can probably hear on the soundtrack. As I've said in previous updates and films, I tend not to do very much in summer, not being one for the heat and all that. So the sequences I bring to you in this update will be from the cooler months. The next sequence is from Torridon in Scotland, where I spent a week after the visit to Moray Firth. You will have seen in some recent films. I was there for a week and I lost most of it to terrible weather. However, as you'll see from some of the stills, when the weather did clear, the scenery was absolutely fantastic. Now there's a little bit of an extra story to this next sequence. Perhaps not the sort of thing I would normally talk about, but something really left a bit of an impression on me. I'm quite used to seeing, and love seeing, all the deer and the stags in the Highlands. But there's one stag in particular that gained some notoriety from hanging around near a certain car park. Now, I've seen him before, so it didn't come as any surprise when I went to the car park, and there he was. Now my approach to this is stay quite distant and put a long lens on the camera and enjoy the view that way. Now on this occasion there were quite a few people there, and unfortunately a lot of them were getting quite close with mobile phones, almost taunting the poor animal, all for the sake of a selfie. Now, apart from thinking to myself this isn't quite right, I asked myself, well, why does this stag put up with it? That's when I saw the bucket of carrots and other vegetables by the entrance to the car park. Now the stag had gained so much notoriety that it had even been given a name. A name I'm not going to say here, but you will see in the sequence. To me, the giving of the name is perhaps almost as bad as the giving of the bucket of vegetables. This doesn't seem natural in those surroundings, perhaps. Anyway, you'll see the name in the text of the sequence and also in the video description. Not because I agree with it, but perhaps by using it others will recognise the story and have a think about it. Now, as I was putting the film together, I was struck by just how beautiful the area is, of course, but the complete juxtaposition that with all of that to roam in, the stag sitting there in a car park with a bucket of carrots. Now, after the film and the conclusion of that story, I'll join you from a different location in a couple of weeks' time. Welcome back. I'm at Chertsey Lock on the River Thames. Yesterday I filmed a cycle trip along the Thames Path from here up to Staines. Now, the last 3 films on the channel have all been from the Peak District in the winter at the end of 2023. The conditions were absolutely fantastic with all those heavy skies. Well, I returned to the Peak District in the spring of 2024 and I wasn't disappointed by the conditions there neither. So you see a couple more films from the Peak District later on in the year. Next up on the channel will be a visit to Southport, including a cycle ride along the promenade. I was very disappointed to see that the pier was closed. I would have liked to have gone along that. So I took a walk around town and indulged in some urban photography. I hesitate to call it street photography. It's a bit more about the architecture and some of the juxtapositions I see. The following day, on the same trip, I paid a visit to WWT Martin Mere as part of my quest to visit all of their reserves. Now, there are only 3 remaining on my list of reserves to visit. That'd be Washington in the northeast of England. There's one in Northern Ireland, which I'm really looking forward to. And one in London, a completely different matter. That's going to take some planning. The van is not compliant with the latest emission scheme. After the sadness of the last sequence, I want to lift the mood a little. So I'm going to close this channel update with a few stills taken this summer. Although I don't do much travelling in summer, I'm lucky enough to live in an area with some fantastic nature reserves. Where I'm able to indulge my passion for macro or close-up photography, especially in the warmer months. My next channel update I'm thinking will be in October, which will give me enough time to slot in one more film, and I'm thinking it's going to be this one from a visit to the Thames Path. And of course, in between each of the longer films I'm slotting in shorts in vertical format. This has been a channel update for August into September, brought to you from the Stour Valley in Kent and the Thames Path in Surrey. I'll leave you with some summer scenes from East Kent. I have been your avuncular host. Thanks for watching.